What's up everybody, it's Drew Wilkins with Swine and Bovine Barbecue, and in today's video I'm going to show you how I trim a brisket. So let's get to cutting. So you'll notice that there's not a brisket in front of me, and that's because I'm actually not trimming one today. I was editing the pastrami video that's now going to come out 2 days after this video, and in the video I actually mentioned that I am not going to go in depth with my brisket trimming process. However, I did just that. What I went through perfectly encapsulates how I trim a brisket. So I wanted to go ahead and get that out, and then the pastrami video will come out 2 days from now where I actually brine, cook, and do all the things associated with that specific brisket that turns into pastrami because of the brine. So without further ado, here's how I trim a brisket. Trimming a brisket. This is going to be not an overly in-depth version of trimming a brisket. When I actually do how to cook a brisket, I'll get more in-depth. But trimming, I start out by removing all of this decal fat. Some people just shave it down. I like to remove as much as possible. So just digging this sucker out of here. I mean, I'm sure you've seen this 100 times from others, but pure fat. So don't want that to be part of our pastrami. So just gonna dig this out. It's kind of a natural seam you can feel in here. So get the majority of this sucker out. We're good there. And then any of this thick fat, like right there, I'll take off. But this is our non-presentation side. I'm not making a competition brisket, cooking meat side up. I cook fat cap up. So I really don't care what the bottom side looks like. I'll go through and make it look somewhat presentable, but I'm not gonna spend any more time than I have already on it. So flip it over. Got this mohawk here. I just come straight this way and take it off. You can see, I'll flip this over real quick so you can see what I'm talking about. But you can see this fat line right here. I just eyeball that when I'm taking this mohawk off, so I don't go too deep into it. And then I'll use this same fat line right here when you go for a 1/4 inch. Just kind of go through and do that when I'm trimming down the mohawk even further. So I'm gonna flip it towards myself because it's a lot easier to see it that way, obviously. But gonna continue just to work this down. Nice 1/4 inch. And so you shaved our mohawk down, as you can see right there. Then, this is hard fat. So we're just gonna shave this down away from ourselves. And really just go for a 1/4 inch of fat all the way around. If there's a little less than a 1/4 inch on the point, I'm not really worried about it. A lot of fat there to help protect it. So not a biggie. Try not to scalp it. Did a little bit right there, but very rarely do I, as a backyard cook, get away without having a few scalp marks on a brisket. Not the end of the world. Certainly want it to look Instagrammable, but if I scalp it, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. But had this brisket in the freezer a little bit before to help the fat firm up, make it easier to go through that wave fat. If you've trimmed a brisket without putting it in the freezer first, it'll start to feel slimy and slippery, and this just makes it easier to really get the fat and not have to saw and dig too much. And you're just sitting there digging, where with this, and you get it in there, you can just kind of glide your blade through. So again, going for a 1/4 inch fat. Get that off. Just trim this all around. And every time I trim a brisket, I get better. It's just something that comes with repetition. I don't work at a barbecue joint, so I don't get to do it that often. But when I do it, I always try and take note, figure out something that works good, and try and repeat it. And I think I have, nope, no scalp. Got some kind of gnarly fat right here. I think scalping may be a little unavoidable just to get that off. But again, not a big deal, especially on the point. So now I know we're not really remotely close to being done trimming, but I like to shape it at this point just to kind of figure out how I'm going to do. This is super thin right here, this part of the flat, so I get rid of it. So just, you've seen, I'm sure other people do this, but just draw kind of how we want our shape to be. And then come through just with some pressure, cut it off. One nice fell swoop. Get it back over, do a little off here, around this corner. And then now this will give us a good idea on our fat, how much fat we have here and how much we need to remove, which is a decent amount. This flat has a decent amount of fat on it, so we're just going to go through, try and move our knife smoothly. Going smooth as well, I find, helps me not, it helps with scalping. Because when you're sawing, you tend to go up and down. Where if you go smooth, like this is already pretty smooth because I've been able to glide my knife over it. And that comes with one, a sharp knife, and two, putting your brisket in the freezer for a little bit before you cook it, or before you trim it. So I'm gonna bring this down a little bit just to get a better idea of my fat cap over here. We're removing a lot of fat, just pure fat too. And there we go, we've gotten to a little meat. As you can see, those first couple of swipes I was taking off, just fat. We don't want that. So now, you got this, we'll round this off a little bit. You know, now we've got a good idea of what we've got to work with from a fat perspective. This side over here, looking pretty good on fat. We can take this down just a touch, but much more than this, and we're going to risk scalping it. So not going to spend much time on that. Over here, you see we've got some room to go. Not much though. See, got a little, started sawing a little bit, went a little too deep there. Fix this right there. That. Yeah, we got one there right here. So I'm just kind of going slow. I'm not on a clock. Don't do this terribly often, so just take your time. No rush. Enjoy the process. Only got one to do, and I don't get to do it very often, so I try and enjoy it. Alright, we're feeling pretty good right here. I can kind of see a little lean shining through there, a little lean right there. Of course I scalped it. Shame on me. But it's not the end of the world. We are going to shape this up just a little bit better though. And again, this, you know, everything I'm doing now is probably just more on the anal side of wanting it to be perfect. So you could cook this right now and have a good brisket, but a little bit at a point right here, a little bit too much of a point for me. So I'm gonna round this, not to confuse the point with the point, but I'm gonna round the point of the point off a little bit. Got a little kind of hard fat there that I'm going to take off. And then just trying to round it out. Smooth edges, nothing to burn up. We don't want anything at a point because that's just not going to turn out very well when it comes time to cook this brisket. It's going to be like crunchy bark. We do not like hard brisket, which is what's going to turn into. So just again, shaping it up. Nice and aerodynamic. Let's see here, I think we're good. Again, I could sit here and probably go all day with this, but I'd end up with a 2-pound brisket if I kept trimming as much as I wanted to. So eventually you gotta say uncle, tap out, and move on. And I think we're at that point. So, good looking brisket. And yeah, again, shame on me. Scalped it a little bit. We're good, should be at about a 1/4 inch fat cap all the way around. Actually over here, definitely a little thicker than that. So, let's just do some smooth strokes. Try and get that down a little bit. Scrape it off. There we have it. That's how I trim a brisket. I don't know how long it took, but I enjoyed it, had fun. So, it's all that matters, right? Doing this in my backyard. Fun is the name of the game. So that's how I trim a brisket. Start to finish, unedited. What's going through my head as I'm going through the trimming process. That's how I do it. I think that sums it up perfectly on how I like to do it as a backyard cook, and I hope it helps you if you decide to trim in that fashion as well. So thanks for tuning in, and again, please stay tuned a couple of days from now for when the pastrami video drops, because it turned out incredibly good, and you'll see that in a few days in that video. But if you like this, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this, please hit that subscribe button. Thanks, we'll see you in the next one.